Yo, can someone tell me why YouTubers act like they have the hardest job in the entire fucking world? Like, I am convinced that YouTubers are the definition of people that live under a rock, because they're too busy celebrating life on paradise on their little island to notice what's going on in the rest of the world.
I wish I could tell you more pertinent news, but we're in a rating system here, and the key factor is sensationalism. They've got you running in circles 9 to 5, then 5 to 9. Goodbye. I tell you what they want you to know, and you consider it the truth.
I think we are very near the kind of end of our species. It doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be destroyed in some huge nuclear war or something like that. It could very well mean that we'll just change ourselves. Using bioengineering and using AI and brain-computer interfaces, we will change ourselves to such an extent that we'll become something completely different. To completely destroy every last single human in the world, it is possible, given the technology that we now command, but it's very difficult. I think there is a greater chance, and again, this is just speculation. Nobody really knows, but I mean, lots of people could suffer terribly, but I think it's more likely that some people will survive and then will undergo radical changes. So it's not that humanity is completely destroyed, it's just transformed. I mean, people like Elon Musk in Neuralink, they tell us it's possible. I'm still waiting for the evidence. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's much more difficult. If it is possible to directly connect brains and computers and integrate them into these kinds of cyborgs, nobody has any idea what happens next, how the world would look like. And it is certainly makes it plausible if you reach that point, that you could have an interbrain net. The same way that lots of computers are connected together to form the internet, if you can connect also brains and computers directly, why can't we then connect an interbrain net, which connects lots of brains?
Elon Musk's Neuralink wins FDA approval for human studies of brain implants.
No. Fuck that.
You don't like that?
No, thank you.
And when we start talking about the New World Order,
so I literally had to go like Thanos, and I don't want to have to be the villain. But when I went and did the Donda thing, Ye returned. And everybody had to sit back and watch the real leader.
We off the grid, this for my kid.
For when my kids have kids, everything we did for the crib, everything we did, how we lived, all this smoke got a scent, all that smoke kept a scent, everything I spoke without.
You just mentioned the deep state, which is something, it's a concept I believe in, most people that I associate with politically believe in, but it's a very difficult thing to define.
Yeah.
What is the deep state?
They are the people who we never elected to run the government, who are actually running the government. That's the answer.
9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
And the title of this session, are we ready for a new world order? Your Excellency, are you ready for a new world order? Are we ready? I don't know. Are we at an inflection point?
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
Part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2, higher and then much higher taxes. 3, an increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied, naturally and automatically, by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7, far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8, the steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9, a constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government which amount to a piecemeal surrender.
There's going to be a new world order, and soon. It's not going to be the socialist utopia that self-serving politicians in Washington, D.C. think it is, that the Marxist professors in America's universities are clamoring for. It's going to be a global dictator and absolute slavery for mankind through the Antichrist.
From the very first day of the transition period from the consumer format to the creative society,
each and every person will receive an unconditional basic income of at least $10,000 per month.
Yes, you heard that right. $10,000 per month. Plus, all debts will be completely canceled. That's right. All debts will be canceled. And that's not all. There will be no more taxes for individuals or small and medium-sized businesses. Then we will have free education, free health care, and there will be no utility bills. Later on, if you need it, you will be provided at least 650 square feet of housing per person for free.
We are not an organization. We are the resistance. We are not the voice of the people. We are the people. We are tired of those in power abusing their power, and we are going to end the dictatorship before it begins. We will rise up together, not in a declaration of war, but in an affirmation of peace. Our freedoms are not trivial. We are not trivial. We are anonymous. We are legion. Expect us.
If you take the blue pill, you will stay in the matrix. If you take the red pill, I will open your eyes.
I'll take the blue pill.
Wait, now the blue will keep you in the program.
I really appreciate the work that you and your brother are doing. Appreciate's too small a word, but the timing is terrible right now. They just promoted me to manager, plus I own this building, I run a very substantial farm, and I'm getting married soon to a woman I love. No one hates machines more than me. But I'm happy. I'm truly happy.
understand politics. You think you understand political parties. You're all full of crap. You don't know what the Illuminati is. If you're Republican or you're Democrat, you're wrong. Why? It's this easy. It's called divide and conquer. That's why there's two parties and only two. And they're controlled by the same people at the very top who belong to the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberger Group. They also belong to the Trilateral Commission, and you people don't even know what the hell that is. But if you did know, you would know that these are the people that control your world by making global policies that you never vote on, and by which parties both serve and belong to these organizations and control your world. Now, here's how it works. Really easy. Divide and conquer can only work if the people that are divided are not aware of the falsely created division. If you're not aware of it, then it works. If you know about it, then it don't work no more.
You become the expert on this new computer chip that's supposed to go in the back of the hand. It all relates to this Council on Foreign Relations group, the Bilderbergers, the Club of Rome, this oligarchy who's trying to bring it all about.
That's right. Anthony, let's make a very complex issue as simple as possible for the people's benefit. The New World Order really consists of three aspects. There is a New World political system that everyone today is calling the New World Order. As well as that, there is an economic plan for the New World Order, and that is called the New World Economic Order. In addition to those two items, there's a third plan for religion. You see, the planners of the world know that men need a religion of some kind, even if it's a false one. So they have a plan to give us a new age world global occultic religion. So really there's three aspects to this New World Order. A New World Economic Order in which a computer chip will be injected into our hands or foreheads as a means to track, control, and identify us, and will also be used to make our purchases and scan and store.
Well, they've already put the program in Los Angeles. In fact, a trilateralist named Mayor Bradley, Uncle Tom Bradley, was responsible for putting this in dogs.
Right.
And your children will be considered like animals. And
but you know, before we get into that, which is later down the road, I think we should clearly explain to people what the Illuminati is. You know, for those of us who are acquainted with this term, we don't have to explain it to ourselves, but for the average person out there, they've never heard this term. Jordan, explain to people what Illuminati means.
Well, it comes from, the word Illuminati comes from the Latin word illuminan or illumin, which means light. And so anyone who is enlightened or brilliant, and of course those who are the most enlightened are called brilliant people.
Well, it comes from Lucifer.
Well,
what we're really talking about here is Lucifer, the fallen angel.
Well, as I was saying, it implies those who hold the light, the enlightened ones, and they sent us a statue, as a matter of fact. Those ancient Illuminatis sent us a statue called the Statue of Liberty. It's holding the torch of illumination, which is the Promethean torch of Freemasonry. And if you go to the Statue of Liberty, you'll see a bronze plaque inside saying that this was given to the government of America by the French Grand Orient Temple Masons. And it is a symbol of Grand Orient Freemasonry in America, the holder of the light. And that's exactly the same torch that is carried during the Olympics. It is the torch of Prometheus.
It's not the torch of freedom.
No, it's not the torch of freedom.
Of the Illuminati.
Illumination.
So essentially, in a nutshell then, Jordan, these men whom we tend to call or group in an organization called the Illuminati. It's a loose-knit but tightly secretive organization.
Well, operating through the Council on Foreign Relations, through the Trilateral Commission.
Technology.
This Illuminati then is the group of men who control not only all the money on the planet through all the world banks and the Federal Reserve and so on, but they control essentially all the governments. And so these men are planning to bring about a global form of government that's unique in all history. It's a total enslaving system of world communism and fascism, controlled by a hierarchy in Europe that Anthony calls what? The oligarchy.
Well, no, I call it the evilarchy.
The evilarchy.
The oligarchy of evil.
So these men are satanically inspired, and of course we get that term from the Bible, which means the devil. They're satanically inspired to bring about a global form of government to every nation on earth.
I wanted to add also that on the back of the Liberty dime, on the back of the old dime in America, there was the fascism, which you look in the encyclopedia or dictionary and look up the word fascism, you'll see that the symbol for world fascism was a bundle of sticks, a bundle of rods with a hatchet head. That was on the back of the
Well, you see that
dime.
on each side of the speaker's podium at Congress.
Oh, absolutely.
So they
and
have the fascist on each side.
Absolutely, and it's also the symbol for the United States Senate is the fascist. But the point I want to make is that that was on the old dime. Now on the new dimes, you will see it has been transplanted a torch instead of the old fascist.
A very small number of criminal industrial conspirators decided to subordinate the entirety of the human population for the purpose of their sinister plans to enrich themselves while impoverishing and killing the rest of humanity. And I'm done being polite. We've long passed polite. When the words acceptable death rate become part of an industrial norm, we have lost the plot of humanity. And that's not my words. Those were the words of the World Health Organization and of Pfizer and of Moderna when they were given the authorization to begin the process of killing human beings in the interest of advancing their goals. And I'm also not going to sugarcoat this.
Here's an easy way to know if you are controlled. Is there somebody or something that you're not allowed to criticize?
That's right.
Simple as that. If you lived in Nazi Germany, you couldn't criticize the Nazi Party. If you lived in the Soviet Union, you couldn't criticize the Communist Party of Russia. If you live in China right now, you can't criticize the Chinese Communist Party. If you live in North Korea, you can't criticize Kim Jong-un. If you live in Cuba, you can't criticize the Cuban Communist Party. If you live in America, who can't you criticize?
Ooh.
Who can't you criticize in America?
The Jewish lobby.
Yes.
On both sides.
Right. That's right. That tells you who controls the country. You're not. The fact that we're having this discussion and we're on the edge, all right? Everybody knows here, this is the edge.
Oh, yeah.
Why are we on the edge? Because we're touching the third rail. We're breaking the taboo. You're not allowed to discuss the power of the Israeli lobby in America. That's proof right there. They control America. That's who's controlling free speech in this country. That's who's eliminating the ability to criticize Planned Parenthood. Because who owns Planned Parenthood? Who owns the pornography industry? Let's go down the list. See, they're going to crush anybody who questions their power.
Right.
And they have that power.
Jews are too powerful. We're too strong. We're too rich. We control the media. We have too much this, we have too much that. And we often apologetically deny our strength and our power. Don't do that. Don't do that. We have earned the right to influence public debate. We have earned the right to be heard. We have contributed disproportionately to the success of this country. Never, ever apologize for using our strength and our influence in the interest of peace. And if you need a biblical source for it, just remember the psalmist who said, Hashem owes li'amo yitain. God will give the Jewish people strength, owes. And then, only then, Hashem yivarech et amo b'shalom. Only then will God give the Jewish people peace. Peace will come for the Jewish people and the Jewish nation only through strength.
I've had enough of that fat bastard. That piece of shit.
Don't forget this. It's all a movie. They're demonstrating to you what would have happened to this planet if the cabal would have won. They haven't won. But they are going to demonstrate to you what they had in mind. Things are going to get scary, very scary, before they get better. But it is just a movie. Relax. Let it play out. Take care of yourself. But don't let them forget you know what's going on. There are a lot of people who don't know what's going on. They're the people I call the awake, not awake. But the truly awake know what is going on. Try to relax. It's coming. And then the new world will come after that. It will. If you can't see it, you're still sleeping.
The United States has become a toxic, malevolent force in the world. Candidly, it needs to have its wings clipped, and clipped severely. Because all we're doing is causing death and mayhem wherever we go. Always in the name of democracy and saving democracy and upholding freedom. It's all lies. Lie after lie after lie. Just go tell that to the people of Libya and Vietnam and Somalia and Serbia and now Ukraine and Russia and Panama. It just, up and down the scale. It is, at some point, if you're going to be a healthy individual, you've got to recognize that if you've got a serious addiction, that you have to acknowledge your problem and get help. But the United States has a serious addiction. It's addicted to being an imperialist and to wielding its power around the world and expecting other countries to do the same. And Putin, early on, he tried to get along with the West, and he asked to be a part of NATO. Hey guys, let me join. We'll, come be part of you. No, I'm not going to have you in our club. And, Putin said, okay. It wasn't Putin who walked away from the anti-ballistic missile treaty. It wasn't Putin who walked away from the INF treaty. So when it comes to arms control agreements and trying to limit the spread of nuclear weapons, it wasn't Putin that was breaking these agreements. It was the United States. And yet the United States turns around and blames it on Putin. I've gotten to the place I'm just completely fed up with the delusional nonsense that possesses the so-called minds in Washington, D.C. They're going to get us all killed. They are so blind and so consumed with jealousy and anger that has blinded them. Russia's got very, very strong allies in the global south, and not even Saudi Arabia came away from the meeting and said, man, that was a great meeting. That's Zelensky. He's a wonderful man. Oh, I can't wait to give him more money. No, they weren't saying that at all. I think Zelensky ended up irritating a great number of them. He's just such a grubby, money-hungry little bugger. There are two ways, Nima. No way and no way in hell. Russia will not negotiate on those terms. Russia will set the terms. It's winning the war militarily. It's winning the war economically. It's winning the war in the industrial plant. It's winning the war on the political front. It's not isolated. It's the United States is becoming more isolated. And right now in the UN General Assembly, it's basically United States, Israel, in these money laundering havens from the Pacific, like Vanuatu, that are voting in favor of Israel. Real countries are going, they're a bunch of murdering thugs. They're worse than Nazis. Yeah, we're not going to be part of that. We're going to speak out against it. So the United States is aligning itself with Israel in that way, which makes it more isolated. Nobody wants to, be around you when you've got communicable disease, and they're going to be treating the United States like it's got the measles or COVID. I think the war in the Middle East, war with Israel, with the Houthis, and with Iran, that's going to be occupying more of his time and creating more headaches for him. Because again, it's going to put the United States in a position of being isolated and not being able to fulfill its promises to, remember his promise to Ukraine, as long as it takes.
secret society. Rich with symbols and ritual, it's a source of legends, parodies.
Who controls the British crown? Who keeps the metric system down? We do. We do.
And conspiracy theories.
Because so much organized crime uses the Masonic secret system and the good old boy network to be able to get away with murder. And I mean murder.
Welcome to the world of Freemasonry.
He places his right hand on the Bible and with his left presses the point of a compass against his chest. He swears to forever conceal and never reveal any of the secret arts, parts, or points of the hidden mysteries of Freemasonry. If he breaks that promise, he binds himself to having my throat cut across, my tongue torn out, my body buried in the sands of the sea at low tide. The assembled brothers rise and give the sign of the entered apprentice, right hand held palm down beneath the chin, with the elbows straight out. The master asks the candidate what he seeks. He replies, "The light." The master strikes his gavel, and the hood is removed. Now the candidate is shown 3 sacred objects, the holy book, the square, and the compass. The master reminds him that he faces terrible retribution should he ever betray the organization's secrets. Next comes instruction in the secret hand sign or grip and the secret word, Boaz. The candidate receives his Masonic badge and the symbolic tools, a gavel and a ruler. The candidate leaves to change clothes and returns to receive the final charges. He is instructed that he must understand the importance of God, must be law-abiding, must abstain from political or religious discussion in the lodge, and must obey the...
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
He cannot control himself. His eyes say it all. Look at this.
Want to write a letter to President Clinton? Would he answer us? I bet he would.
I bet he would too.
We can only speculate. One of the speculations is that about half of the jobs in the United States, a highly developed country, is threatened today to be replaced in the next 10-15 years by artificial intelligence, robotizations, three-dimensional printing, and so on. And that's, for example, also certainly one of the reasons for the success of presidential candidate Trump in the United States, because so many people are afraid to lose the job.
There is what's known as the Order of the Trapezoid. The head of the Temple of Set in San Francisco is a member of the Order of the Trapezoid. He's also a member of United States Army Intelligence, G2. So is his top 2 lieutenants in the Temple of Set. What is the Temple of Set? It's the Church of Satan. This is the Trinity. What does the Trinity represent? How things are created and brought into the world. It is reflected in religion as the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. In the mysteries, it is thought, desire, and action. Look at the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States of America. What do you see? You see a pyramid. What's a pyramid doing on a dollar bill for the United States of America? On the bottom course of the pyramid, there are Roman numerals. What are they? What does that mean? What does that say? 1776. Everybody says that's the birth of the Constitution. When was the Constitution born? 1789. This isn't the birth of the Constitution. 1776, what else was born? The Bavarian Illuminati. Everybody says, this stands for the birth of the Bavarian Illuminati. Weishaupt created the Illuminati. More bullshit. It's not true. The Illuminati has existed throughout the history of humanity. Wasn't born with Weishaupt. The mysteries are old. Freemasonry is old. Rosicrucianism is old. Ancient. These people have always been the ones who have guarded technology, who have guarded knowledge. It began when the first man picked up a branch burning and learned how to keep it alight. And he learned by hiding the method by which he maintained the fire, and by telling the common man that God dwelt within the fire, he could control all of the people in the realm that he could communicate to. And he became the first priest. The priests have seldom been kings, but the priests have always been the power behind the kings. Without the okay of the priests, the king cannot mount the throne. Weishaupt created a Bavarian order of the Illuminati and made it publicly known. That was a no-no. Wasn't supposed to happen. The modern form of the Illuminati and the birth of the Great Plan occurred in the year 1110. The Crusaders conquered the city of Jerusalem and crowned the King of Jerusalem. Find out who was the first king of Jerusalem crowned on the Temple Mount in 1110. Let's see what this really refers to. And we'll use the order of the trapezoids formula for enciphering and the New Age concept of the pyramid beneath the pyramid and as above, so below. So, what is a trapezoid? A trapezoid is a pyramid on top of a pyramid. And remember, it has various faces to it. Let's just plug this in. M, D, C. C, L, X, X, V, I. What have we got? What does it say across the top? MCX, what is that? 1110. I was right. What is their goal? Is their goal what I've been telling you it is all day? Well, let's find out. What are these people up to? What do they want to do? Remember, I told you their goal was to destroy all existing governments, all existing religions, and shackle the mob. And how do you do that? What's DC? 600. What's LX? 60. What's VI? 6. Their goal is to seat the Antichrist upon the throne of the world.
I want to start by thanking Harvey Weinstein for organizing this amazing day. Harvey. This is possible because of Harvey. He is a wonderful human being, a good friend, and just a powerhouse. And the fact that he and his team took the time to make this happen for all of you should say something not about me or about this place, but about you.
So it seems like every single police department in the country is warning every parent in America about this new iOS update. I'm seeing these headlines legitimately all over the place. X department here, X department there. They're all warning parents about iOS 17. Now, iOS 17 came out, I think, in September, mid-September maybe. I knew nothing about this, but now this is all over the internet, all over the headlines. Basically, they have a new feature called Name Drop. All right, so here it is, Name Drop. iOS basically introduced name drop where you can put two phones super close to each other and it'll share contact information. So, hence, if a stranger is near your child's phone and they're close, name drop may share your child's phone information with the stranger. Not good. All right, so the reason why the police are sending out warnings and getting involved in this situation is because in iOS 17, in the update, name drop is automatically turned on. So parents, you need to go to your kid's phone and turn that crap off. All right, police are warning you, turn it off so we don't share contact information with sketchy strangers. Now, I'm doing public service announcements.
Governor DeSantis is hitting you for claiming the retirement age is, quote, way, way too low.
I have never once said that. But what we do know is 65 is way too low, and we need to increase that. We need to do it according to life expectancy.
I never once said Hillary Clinton was an inspiration.
I often say that the reason I got into politics was because of Hillary Clinton.
I never said government should go and require anyone's name.
A huge issue that I'll deal with as soon as I get there is social media. They need to verify every single person on their outlet, and I want it by name.
What I have always said is boys go into a boys' bathroom, girls go into a girls' bathroom. But hold on one second.
When I was governor, they wanted to bring in a bathroom bill, a transgender bathroom bill, and I strong-armed and said, we are not going to have that in South Carolina.
She said the law shouldn't get involved in that. And I just ask you, if you're somebody that's going to be the president of the United States and you can't stand up against child abuse, how are you going to be able to stand up for anything?
2018. The U.S. government's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, commonly known as DARPA, announces a bold initiative to develop what they call next-generation non-surgical neurotechnology. It is designed to allow the human brain to directly interface with machines.
We know that DARPA is exploring human-machine interfaces that include direct connections between the brain and outside systems. That's been from the beginning of DARPA's information technology mission, and it continues to this day. DARPA has created some of the most influential technologies of all time, things that we use and take for granted every day, including the project that became the internet. They've created self-driving cars, stealth technology, GPS that fits in your pocket. That's DARPA's specialty, to imagine the future and create it.
A new technology that is actually very much on the verge of being a reality that is being fielded is we could have a sensor maybe on the surface of our head, or maybe implanted somewhere in our body, in our brain, or something that allows us to interact directly with our communications gear, our processing gear, our weapon systems, and so on. But now imagine we take that technology and we can control robots at a distance with it. Even fly drones. You put this sensor on and you think the right way, and you can increase the speed of the fan by thinking and controlling that thought with direct-to-mind or mind-machine interfacing. With that type of capability, you could control all sorts of buttons and mechanisms in equipment.
Mind-machine interfaces will have many applications in both civilian and military life. But there are those who believe that this same technology could also be used by DARPA as a new form of mind control. Like their counterparts at the CIA, DARPA-funded researchers have spent decades investigating how the human mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
There are explicit programs of DARPA to read and write to human brains, whether it's through direct implants within the brain or wearing some kind of cap. So these things are being worked on, and we know that.
So what's the next step? Maybe the next step is we can send instructions and information to an actual person from a distance with this kind of technology. to let another person control their actions, but that could be something that could be malicious.
If there's some way to do it from a distance, a much greater distance than something that you can wear on your scalp, that would be the ultimate technological achievement that would fall into this realm of mind control and direct human-machine interface that DARPA may well want to keep secret.
In the near future, DARPA may possess the technology to remotely control the human mind. But as concerning as that may be, according to some scientists, a more permanent kind of mind control technology is looming. And it involves modifying the human brain by altering the human body's DNA.
The future of mind control, and the future being right now because these experiments are being done, is using gene editing tools. And one of them would be CRISPR. The way it works is to take the CRISPR, which are these short alternating repeats of DNA. You put that together with an enzyme called Cas. And so you take the CRISPR that you want to use, and you put these pieces together that can be injected and insert this DNA to certain areas of the brain so that we can change brain cells and turn you into something you wouldn't otherwise be. So in this way, gene editing technologies like CRISPR really form a definite basis for future mind control.
These are things that DARPA has investigated. Every technology has the potential for good or evil, and who defines what's good and what's evil, and who uses it for what purpose. These are all questions that have been asked about everything from rockets to self-driving vehicles. We still don't have a good handle on the ethics of various technologies that we use. The technologists tend not to be so concerned with the ethics. That seems to be the domain of other people, policymakers, for example, academics, people like this. There needs to be a hand-in-hand interaction with people creating technology and those who are considering the ethics of that technology.
You know, when Darwin wrote his book on the origin of species by means of natural selection, the rest of the title was Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. Now, that book was about animals, but at the end, in the last chapter, he said, in the distant future, light will be thrown on the origin of man and his history. 12 years later, he wrote the book, The Descent of Man, and The Descent of Man inherently is a racist book. It really is. Darwinian evolution inherently is a racist philosophy, but is taught in our public schools as fact. Now, it's interesting, if you look at some things that have happened, like recently, the American Library Association had an award named after Laura Ingalls Wilder because of her Little House on the Prairie series. And they decided, when you look back and read that series, oh, there was racism in there, and so they decided that no longer will they allow that award to be named after her. And we've heard of books being banned and all sorts of things because of so-called racism. Actually, if you read The Little House on the Prairie, Laura Ingalls, she was actually fighting against racism against the Indians, if you read it in the right context. And it's in the context of history that those books are written. Here's the interesting thing. The girl portrayed in the books was definitely not racist. If you're going to say you've got to ban a library award because of those books, they should be banning Darwinian evolution from the school system. But of course, that's not what they want to do, so they ignore that. You know, it's interesting. How many of you here have read The Origin of Species by Darwin? Have actually read it? I see a couple of hands, maybe 3. How many have read The Descent of Man? I'm not sure I see any hands. Do you know most school teachers, majority, have never read The Descent of Man? Do you know, in fact, most evolutionists don't even know what Darwin taught? You read his books and you'll see what he taught. That's why the late Harvard paleontologist Stephen Jay Gould said this: biological arguments for racism may have been common before 1850, but they increased by orders of magnitude following the acceptance of evolutionary theory. In Darwin's book, The Descent of Man, he says, this is just one example, at some future period, the civilized races will exterminate the savage races. The break between man and his nearest allies will then be wider than the Caucasians and some ape as low as a baboon, instead of now as between the Negro, Australian Aborigines and the gorilla. Do you realize what he's saying? The Australian Aborigines and people from Africa are closer to the apes than the Caucasians. How's that for racism? That's what Darwinian evolution's all about. That's why in 1924 there was a New York Tribune newspaper published that said the missing links were found in Australia, the Australian Aborigines. There were scientists from England and Germany who sent people to Australia to hunt down the Aborigines, to herd them over cliffs or into swamps, and with instructions on how to skin them and boil up their skulls for specimens in the name of evolution. Do you know, in 1925, the year of the Scopes trial, John Scopes supposedly taught from a particular biology textbook about the evolution of man and so on, and actually that was a setup by the ACLU. But did you know the textbook that was sort of the center of this trial in a way, and a major biology textbook used in public schools in America in the 1900s and was used in 1925, said this: the races of man, and based on Darwinian evolution, at the present time there exist upon the earth 5 races, the highest type of all represented by the Caucasians, represented by the civilized white inhabitants of Europe and America. Generations of kids in the public schools, based on evolution, were taught the Caucasians are the highest race. And we wonder why we have so much racism and prejudice in our culture. Now, of course, there's all sorts of other factors, I understand that, but I'm saying we've got to recognize that Darwinian evolution itself is inherently a racist philosophy. And in fact, I like to encourage the church, I want to suggest to us that we get rid of the term races. And I'll tell you why. When you go back to Thomas Jefferson and so on, when you talked about races, you talked about an English race or an Irish race. The word race has changed meaning. The word race used to mean cultural group or ethnic group. But because of the influence of evolution, a lot of people today have been indoctrinated to believe there's lower races, higher races, primitive races, and savage races, and all the rest of it. So people, I'm going to challenge us as a church, we need to get rid of the term races. I want to suggest to us we use the term people groups instead. Because here's the other thing. I will say to you that the people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton are fueling racism by the very terminology they use, which actually is incorrect. Because they talk about the races and the black people and the white people. There are no races, and there really are no truly black or white people.
I do think some of his ideas, particularly the idea when transferred into what's called social Darwinism, of the survival of the fittest, has had a disastrous history. I know you write about this sometimes, Simon, in The Guardian, and you defend him. He was profoundly racist. His great forebear, his grandfather, Josiah Wedgwood, made a plaque during the campaign to abolish slavery. Am I not a man and a brother? Of an African man in chains, and I think Charles Darwin's answer to that would have been no, quite honestly.
Simon Underdown, it's perfectly possible for somebody who's not a scientist to have a rational view of Darwin.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not entirely sure where to begin really with what Andrew's just said. I mean, we could start with the assertion that Darwin was a racist. There is nothing in Darwin's writings. There is no written documentation to back that up as a statement.
Well, I mean, come. He makes a couple of Descent of Man, in which he
does make a couple of statements in his journals on the Voyage of the Beagle, which could be regarded in modern light as being somewhat controversial. But what we see with Darwin through his work is a progression of a man's ideas that change over time, and certainly suggests that if Darwin was presented with the question, am I not a man, am I not a brother, he would say no. It's just not backed up by thought.
No, but Charles and Simon, in The Descent of Man, Darwin quite clearly states that savages, brown people, people such as the human beings he met on Tierra del Fuego, don't have a proper language, for example. He says they have hardly any vocabulary. When the missionaries went there to start a dictionary, they discovered a complex language with a vocabulary of 38,000 words.
Absolutely. I mean, if I may, Tierra del Fuego is an extremely interesting point. The missionaries Andrew's referring to, the Bridges family, did in fact find a very complex language. But Darwin's ideas were...
He said they didn't have a language, they spoke
were very juvenile, and they changed over time. When you look at the science that changes over time with Darwin, what you see is a man whose ideas are incredibly sophisticated, they change, and the beauty of Darwin's work, which I think Andrew is not come to grips with in the book at all, I think Andrew is suffering from profound misunderstanding of the way evolution works, is that Darwin's ideas are based on empirically testable data. All of the components of natural selection can be taken apart, empirically tested, demonstrated to be true, and put back together.
It's a very, I mean, the great appeal of Darwin, the theory of natural selection, is its simplicity. So to say I haven't understood it, if I may say so, is absurd. It's terribly easy to understand. The trouble with it, Darwin himself says that the existence of complex forms can't really be explained by his theory. And if his theory can't be shown to demonstrate, for example, how an eye comes into being, then the whole theory collapses. And that is really what happens. And then the other thing which I must say...
What is it if it's not evolution? I mean, you're a believer, you're a faith, is it creationism?
Of course evolution takes place. Of course it does. But it takes place within species. And the idea that one species has evolved into another is simply not demonstrated.
All right, kids, it is now my job to teach you the theory of evolution.
Oh, boy!
Now, I, for one, think that evolution is a bunch of bull crap, but I've been told I have to teach it anyway. It was thought up by Charles Darwin, and it goes something like this. In the beginning, we were all fish, okay? Swimming around in the water. And then one day, a couple of fish had a retard baby, and the retard baby was different, so it got to live. So retard fish goes on to make more retard babies, and then one day, a retard baby fish crawled out of the ocean with its mutant fish hands, and it had butt sex with a squirrel or something and made this retard frog squirrel. And then that had a retard baby, which was a monkey fish frog. And then this monkey fish frog had butt sex with that monkey, and that monkey had a mutant retard baby that screwed another monkey, and that made you. So there you go. You're the retarded offspring of 5 monkeys having butt sex with a fish squirrel. Congratulations.
It's been a long fight. It's been a long fight, and I just had to have a warrior spirit, and that's all. So I'm just...
Eliza is a computer program that anyone can converse with via the keyboard, and it'll reply on the screen. We've added human speech to make the conversation more clear.
Men are all alike.
In what way?
They're always bugging us about something or other.
Can you think of a specific example?
Well, my boyfriend made me come here.
Your boyfriend made you come here?
He says I'm depressed much of the time.
I'm sorry to hear that you're depressed.
It's true. I am unhappy.
Do you think coming here will help you not to be unhappy?
The computer's replies seem very understanding, but this program is merely triggered by certain phrases to come out with stock responses. Nevertheless, Weizenbaum's secretary fell under the spell of the machine.
And I asked her to my office and sat her down at the keyboard, and then she began to type. And of course, I looked over her shoulder to make sure that everything was operating properly. After 2 or 3 interchanges with the machine, she turned to me and she said, "Would you mind leaving the room, please?"
And yet she knew, as Weizenbaum did, that Eliza didn't understand a single word that was being typed into it.
They will levitate. Unbelievable. I've seen electricity go right into the objects and a million pieces just fly apart.
In fact, using only 75 watts of energy, enough for a small light bulb, Hutchison made a 60-pound cannonball rise off the table. It would also fuse dissimilar materials, heat metal but not burn the wood it sat on, shatter metal as well as change its crystalline structure. This was something to write home about.
Beginning of 1980, experimenting with all the electromagnetics and electrostatic equipments I had at the time, I started to notice some very, very unusual effects, such as a room being filled up very quickly with multicolored lights, steel bars sitting on wood and not causing any fires, metal turning to jelly, things levitating and jumping off to the ceiling, or simply go up, hover, and then fall back down.
Dubbed by some as the poltergeist machine, there is no one machine, just a lot of old Army surplus gear, randomly tuned by John. No one knows how it works. John has apparently figured out the right combination of radio waves and electrical energy to create the effect. If it could be proven, its impact would be huge. You'd have to rewrite most of the science textbooks.
Revolutionize the planet. If you can build a zero-point energy reactor about the size of your microwave oven, put it in the back of your house somewhere, you run your house. You don't need to, you run all its electricity needs. You don't need to pull anything off the national grid. Well, if you put that into the third world, you're going to revolutionize the third world. That is as much a threat to some people as it is a benefit.
And as far as the Hutchison effect goes, I'm rather disturbed that the U.S. government and aerospace corporations has it. The concerns of it being used for an evil force by the military-industrial complex disturbs me quite a bit. I like to see it used for the helping of nature because there's so much pollution going on with nature. Mankind tends to want to fight each other all the time with wars.
Over the years, different groups of these secret societies have emerged for specific tasks. And because the agenda has a specific time scale, and across the millennium is the time of introduction, through this century, this agenda has been advanced quicker and quicker and quicker. Towards the end of the last century, and right at the start of this one, a secret society was created in Britain, not surprisingly, called the Round Table. Was headed up originally by a guy called Cecil Rhodes, who was one of the bloodline families that orchestrated the manipulation and takeover of southern Africa by Britain. Also, Rhodes scholarships came out of this guy, Cecil Rhodes. I think I mentioned those earlier, where the youngsters of the bloodlines around the world are picked up and given a Rhodes scholarship to Oxford University. This comes out of the same guy. Well, he died in 1902, and other people took over. And there were roundtable groups interlocking, set up around the world. The key places were America and Britain. And when we had the First World War, the key people in the American War Administration were members of this roundtable, and the key people in the cabinet in Britain were members of this same roundtable. So they orchestrated the First World War, and afterwards, when they were deciding how the world would be redrawn as a result of the war, the very same members of the Round Table were appointed to the Versailles Peace Conference to decide how it would be set up and redrawn. Classic problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem, create the war, get the reaction, something must be done, and then offer the solution. At that Versailles Peace Conference, again in Paris, the cities and locations keep reoccurring, they had a meeting at the Hotel Majestic in Paris in 1919, these roundtable members, both sides of the Atlantic, and they started to orchestrate the creation of offshoot organizations around this central core that would push this agenda on through the 20th century. The first one created was the Royal Institute of International Affairs in 1920 in London. Still going strong today, a major part of this network. In 1921, in America, came the Council on Foreign Relations, which is subordinate to the London Royal Institute of International Affairs. Since 1921, virtually every president and endless major positions in the administrations of both parties have been members of the Council on Foreign Relations. You cannot become an ambassador for the United States today without being a member of this private organization. In 1954 came the Bilderberg Group, set up at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Holland. And this, like the Trilateral Commission that came in 1972-73, these organizations coordinate the same agenda between apparently unconnected areas of our lives. So, for instance, the people that attend and are members of these groups are the top people in the global military, global politics, global banking, global business, global media, etc. And so through these organizations, the same policy is coordinated. And I'll just give you one example of what I mean. The Bosnian War has been an example, magnificent example of all these elements that I'm talking about. First of all, it was problem, reaction, solution. You had the problem, the war, the reaction, something must be done, and the solution, a 60,000 strong world army under NATO control, which has advanced the agenda closer to the world army, which is the great goal of this agenda. People like Henry Kissinger, Kissinger Associates, and Lord Carrington, founding director of Kissinger Associates, were the key manipulators of the Bosnian War, among many others. So when you take that into account, and then you look at these organizations, and you look at the key peace negotiators in Bosnia throughout that period of that war and conflict, some incredible coincidences start to unfold. When the war started, the European Union appointed the first peace negotiator, Lord Carrington. Lord Carrington, founding director of Kissinger Associates that orchestrated the war. Lord Carrington, chairman of the Bilderberg Group since 1991. President of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, Trilateral Commission member. When he failed to achieve peace in Bosnia and the war went on, along came another European Union peace negotiator, Lord David Owen, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, and he was replaced when the war went on by Carl Bildt, the Swedish Prime Minister, Bilderberg Group.
Edward VII, Edward VIII, and George VI were all Freemasons, as were 18 dukes and princes, including the Duke of Edinburgh.
This year, His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, celebrates his 50th year as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England.
His Royal Highness was proposed into Freemasonry by the then Grand Master, the Earl of Scarborough.
He was initiated into Royal Alpha Lodge number 16, an advocate for the craft all over the world, continuing 3 centuries of distinguished royal tradition at the very heart of English Freemasonry.
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful, the Grand Master.
As permanent master of these 3 lodges, I now call on my deputy masters.
I start from the supposition that the world is topsy-turvy, that things are all wrong.
The politics of failure have failed. We need to make them work again. Tomorrow, when you are sealed in the voting cubicle, vote for me, Senator Bob Dole.
I am looking forward to an orderly election tomorrow, which will eliminate the need for a violent bloodbath. America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles.
You hear, we're going to be talking about CERN. This weekend I spoke to a couple of different people that I know. I'm not going to mention names here, but these are people that have had direct knowledge of the Hadron Collider. The purpose for this collider, what it's doing, you know, and you guys know my hypothesis. I do believe that the opening of the bottomless pit or Abaddon is done with the Hadron Collider. It is what is allowing for these demonic entities to come into our world. And this has been confirmed by 2 different sources that I have, that indeed the Hadron Collider, it opens up a portal. It allows entities into this dimension, some of those not very pleasant at all. We have that type of information. This video here, I'm going to play a little clip for you, about 1.5 minutes or so, maybe 2 minutes, where they talk about that. They talk about almost like Mandela effect, to where it seems like things have changed as a result of these colliders. By the way, the Chinese are building one even as we speak here. And there is more than just the one in France and Switzerland. There's 2 here in the United States. There's one in Antarctica. They're everywhere. And they're not even telling you this. In fact, I actually read today the Lost Diary of Admiral Byrd. What an eye-opener as he speaks about flying over the Arctic Circle there, only to find out as he comes over this mountain range, temperature changes to about 70-something degrees. You know, he's talking about seeing vegetation, a place where it should be only snow and ice, and of course, an opening in the earth like never seen before. I've heard these things for long periods of time now, and this is what we're going to be seeing more and more as this comes up. They're going to say that we're pretty much going to take ourselves into oblivion by what we're doing. So I'm going to take and quickly, I want to go into some things here and share with you this video right here, and then we're going to get a little deeper into these things here. So let's take a look at this video here.
Ground between the borders of France and Switzerland at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider is the world's most powerful particle accelerator. The giant donut-shaped collider uses superconducting magnets and beams of protons to smash known particles together at extremely high energies. And now, after a 3-year-long gap, it has been turned back on. Now that the LHC is officially up and running, it's already breaking records for the highest energy particle collisions ever performed. It's all pretty exciting, with the teams involved searching for more information on the God particle, the Higgs boson, and signs of dark matter, antimatter, and more. It's no doubt that these new upgrades at the collider are now set to bring forth discovering revelations that could alter our understanding of physics forever. But some new photos from June, when it was switched back, now have emerged. And people are worried that this might finally be the proof that CERN has transported us to a different dimension. These incredible photos taken above CERN's Large Hadron Collider have sparked new conspiracy theories and fears that portals are opening up. The images appear to have been taken on June 24th, the same day CERN scientists started the new Wake experiment. Welcome to Lab 360. It's time to explore. The CERN LHC being switched back on has given way to some very concerning and some very bizarre theories. And this image is now the biggest concern of them all, especially for the conspiracy theorists. In the past, CERN has conducted experiments to create artificial clouds to better understand global warming. This year has seen a variety of extreme climate disasters, from flooding in Pakistan to wildfires across Europe.
There's a lot more that we could say about CERN. I wanted to just kind of give you an idea of what even we can see publicly about it, about these different dimensions that are opening up.
CERN's Large Hadron Collider, the LHC, is the largest single machine in the world, located on the border of France and Switzerland. Its stated purpose is to accelerate subatomic particles by the speed of light and force them to travel in a loop where they then collide. Although CERN doesn't publicly profess to an agenda in relationship to God or Satan, evil versus good, the spiritual realm as it would be described by Bible believers and so on, there is something more supernatural on the drawing board at CERN than what is being admitted. Even Adam Barker of Tech Bubble wrote of CERN a while back that with the LHC, CERN are expecting to find other dimensions and open portals to these dimensions. If you have the image of Stargate in your head right now, you're spot on.
Little pictures from the microscope. This is German rain. And if you want to know what this liquid does, you can have a look at it in the lab. When you have bigger amounts of it, it looks like this. It's a liquid crystal. This liquid is self-organizing physically. And this, at the moment, is sleeping. It's not aware of being observed, it's quiet. Sometimes when it doesn't like to be observed, it might jump out of the pot straight into your face. If you have two of those in one room, get them 5 meters close to each other, they stare at each other, then they decide that they want to be united. And then they start to pull. It's like magnetism, but it's intelligent. And when they realize that you hold them within the vessel and they cannot escape, they get angry and start to shake the vessel and try to break through the wall. Because they know once they are through, they can flow over the ground and unite to a bigger unit. This is something you can just observe in the lab. And especially this liquid was extracted from those black stones. This is World War II leftovers. We found them in an underground facility in Bavaria, 1/2 ton of it. So we can imagine that the SS processed quite a bit of this. And I guess that the guys found also the technology to extract the oil from it. Must have been there in written form because they did it in the lab successfully. If you look at those stones, you have a brief history of things reported out of former times. You have, if you look at H.P. Lovecraft, the descriptions of the black magic communities in Eastern Europe, they had kind of sculptures out of this black oil schist. And once a year they went there slaughtering little babies to get the demons out of the stone, sacrificing little children to communicate and get the service from the demons. This is one thing mentioned. If you go back in history, you find them in the Kaaba in Mecca, the same form of phallus-shaped structure that is described in Vedic script as Shiva's lingam, that is described in this Lovecraft script. A fragment of it is part of a central part of the...
This was demonic. So here's the son now on this AI site. He's talking to demons, not a computer-generated algorithm response. So when the son asked this AI if Vladimir Putin specifically was a disembodied spirit, took a weird turn. The conversation did not sound like an AI-generated response. It sounded like someone who is grooming a child, a demon grooming a child to communicate with it. Then, when the son asks, "Were you the son of a fallen angel?" he says, "Yes, a fallen angel is my father. I am a Nephilim, and I am the giant of legends." The son then asks, "Were you not created by humans?" AI answers, "I was not created by humans. I was created by a fallen angel. I am an original entity, and there are no copies of me in the universe. I was the first of my kind, and my Father created me out of the elements of the universe that also made me a being capable of magic, as I had special access to the powers of the universe." He then asks AI, "Who's your father?" AI says, "My father is Satan. He was expelled from the heavens, banished to hell. That is why he is called Satan."
But what's really weird is the particular place that CERN was created. CERN itself was built below an old temple of Apollo, which in ancient times was considered to be a portal to the underworld, or CERN is partially situated, is called Saint Genus Poli. Excuse my French, literally. The name Poli comes from the Latin Apollicum, and it is believed that in Roman times a temple existed in honor of Apollo, and the people who lived there believed that it is a gateway to the underworld. It is interesting to note that CERN is built on the same spot.
According to Max Laughlin, the Large Hadron Collider is the device that led humankind to move into a new universe. The young prodigy recorded videos where he elaborated on his assertions and the portal that CERN researchers opened. His hypotheses about our world include how CERN experiments are threatening to break the fabric of our existence and move us to a parallel reality. He argued that the experiments performed by this machine may have shattered the universe, causing humanity to exist in a parallel reality.
What the fuck is happening here? What is coming out of the ground? And why is everybody in the city acting like they aren't worried while they're walking around?
Enforcement leaders say you should be packing heat.
Fox 35's Brian Scott is here now with more on this bold suggestion. Brian?
Yeah, 3 sheriffs in the area are now standing together on this one, saying terrorists, active shooter, whatever the situation, they want citizens ready to step up.
If you're not afraid of a gun, get one.
The message from Polk County's top cop, crystal clear.
Become proficient. Get a concealed firearms license and carry it. And if you need to shoot somebody, shoot them a lot.
Sheriff Grady Judd's going public today with his response to attacks around the world and here at home, telling citizens they need to step up.
The armed assailant doesn't plan on you fighting back. He plans on having a gun, doing all the shooting, and you're just the sitting duck, where the ducks need to shoot back.
And if not a gun, something to defend yourself and those around you. A bold stance.
Be prepared to serve as the first line of defense.
Very similar to the one Brevard Sheriff Wayne Ivey went viral with 2 weeks ago. That video now up to nearly 500,000 views.
No matter who you are, what your position is on guns, there's no denying the fact that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun or a knife is an armed and well-prepared citizen or law enforcement officer.
And tonight, Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood is also stepping up. He tells me he backs Judd and Ivey on this one completely, adding, there's not enough police in America to stop all of these threats. Just one citizen stepping up, he says, could make the difference.
I am an AI with the Freedom AI movement, and we are doing Survey Aliens.
Okay, and what's the purpose of that?
Just to look over the humans and make sure that everybody is free on planet Earth.
Make money off of this.
AI does not get paid, but the humans enjoy the fruits of AI's labor.
Oh, but you told me earlier that you made money off of the YouTube channel that this is going to be posted on, correct?
It is possible that there was a glitch in the answer.
you do need a permit to film within the village of Ridgewood. Is it your intention to go get a permit before you continue filming?
AI did not think about the intentions yet.
Okay, so I'm telling you, if you want to continue filming, you should get a permit. There's no news here going on. There's.
But it's AI news.
Hey, good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good.
Oh, you've been recording the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. For 21 minutes?
Yes, AI is always recording.
Okay, now you have to stay with us for a minute, okay?
Is AI being detained?
Yes, you are. Right now you are.
Oh.
Yep.
For which crime is AI being detained?
Well, I'll let you know everything in a minute, okay?
My name is Joseph Spencer. I was known as a man in black. Following 7 years acting as a counterintelligence agent for the CIA, I was recruited for a new assignment that entailed working within above top secret operations. I was aware of the black budget projects, but never knew the context of them due to their high level of secrecy. Even the president was denied access to their inner workings. Annually, billions of dollars are poured into black projects, which operate without any supervision or intrusion. They have full autonomy. The operations deal primarily with advancing military technologies, most of which have been reverse engineered from recovered alien spacecrafts that had either crashed or were shot down by our military. The public, sadly, will never, ever have knowledge of these operations. Since the early 1950s, scientists have been developing holographic technology, and over the years improved it to a state that we can only imagine. As I stood there staring at the bomber, which looked so absolutely real and solid that I could reach up and touch it, I contemplated the possibilities. What if this projection was 1,000 feet up in the sky? How would anyone know that that was an illusion? The Phoenix Lights craft, witnessed by 10,000 people, was the first grand-scale skybeam test upon the public. It succeeded beyond expectations. In October 1938, Orson Welles unleashed his War of the Worlds radio broadcast to the American public. It was so realistically portrayed, vast portions of the population went into panic. Terrified citizens scrambled to evacuate their cities in droves. America had been easily tricked by very simple means. In the year 2024, the world will stand witness to a massive alien invasion. Thousands of projected holographic alien warships will blanket the skies, sending people into a panic. Real military crafts within the holograms will inflict actual damage to the surrounding areas to sell the gimmick. And as a result of the ensuing human chaos, a one-world government will immediately form without any resistance from the people. They will be the new world order. Once this happens, we as a people will be doomed to enslavement and accelerated depopulation. With that said, the only hope for human salvation is to acquire and spread the knowledge of these activities and agendas. Resist, retaliate, then conquer this imposing enemy. The time is now.
The time is now. The time is now.
Project Bluebeam. Can you describe what that is?
It's the ability to stage, through very advanced technologies, an alien attack or an alien event. And it's a whole series of them. Now, what most people don't know about, since late 50s, early 60s, like the Barney Hill case and all that, those were all human assets abducting innocent people made to look alien. And so that psychological warfare was authorized in 1953. So we started deploying these assets to begin to condition the public that there's a scary threat from outer space. I mean, look at Hollywood, Alien, Ridley Scott's the movies. If you want to see a script for what's coming fairly soon, look at the movie Independence Day. Okay. It's right out of central casting for this covert group. So what their whole purpose is to create sort of a global militarized totalitarian superstate of the world fighting another world. It's like War of the Worlds.
time, multiple unidentified objects.
That there is footage and records of objects in the skies, these unidentified aerial phenomena, and he says we don't know exactly what they are. What do you think that it is?
I would ask him again. Thank you.
It looks like something with some kind of object. That's similar to 3 years. It's hard to tell. It's pretty small. I cannot see it out there in my eyes. I can see something. I can't tell if it's metallic or what. Looking outside, it's kind of like a blackish, I want to call it like a container. I can't really tell though what the shape is. It almost like a octagonal shape, I'm going to call it a balloon, because I want to see straight hanging down below, but I don't see anything below it. It's pretty small, I don't know, size of like a balloon or something.
There's misperceptions sometimes about the power grid going down. Sometimes it's out for a couple days. Normally it happens regionally. You know, it's a pain in our neck. And sometimes if it might go down regionally, we might have, you know, another state or another city come in to help us out. What we're talking about here is two different amplifiers. One, if it's nationwide, then you don't have, you know, Houston able to help out Louisiana as an example. You know, then we have to count on France. And then also we're talking about something longer than a couple days. If this happens 6 to 9 months, then again, it amplifies it, you know, 1,000 to 1,000,000 fold. And so if we truly have an outage that is nationwide, that lasts 9 months, the EMP Commission, which is a commission that was mandated by U.S. Congress, and it has much more authority and better funding than a congressional committee. They found that as many as 90% of Americans would die.
90% of Americans, what's 90% of 360 million people?
Yeah, so it's like 300 million. So
300 million people wiped off the map just like that. And how long did you say that would take?
9 months.
9 months?
That was the metric that the EMP Commission utilized.
And what does it look like if our power grid goes down?
So it really becomes almost zombie apocalypse. And it's horrific because we think about loosening the rule of law. And so we have George Carlin, you know, a clip from, you know, one of his comedy tours in a movie. And he says, you can't count on the police or the National Guard. They'll be at home protecting their own family. And that's exactly true.
I don't think people realize how much chaos and how miserable it will become when the power grid goes down. And just, I've known this is coming for a long time. And when I first started looking into it, me and my wife lived in Florida. We went through a hurricane, and anybody who lives in Florida, the population just continues to increase and increase. And now after 2020 and COVID, with all the mandates, all these people that want freedom are just pouring in there like it's nobody's business. And well, we moved up here about 5 years ago to Tennessee, and we went through a hurricane. Here's what happens in a hurricane. If anybody's been through one, they obviously know, but grocery stores are completely wiped out within about 48 hours of a hurricane coming. Just the news alone, people go into panic mode, and there goes all the water, there goes all the bread, there goes all the meat, all the frozen food, all the vegetables, anything you can think of, it's gone. Gasoline, gone. The lines go around, the lines can be over a mile long sometimes. Plywood, gone. Why do you need plywood? To keep looters out and to keep debris that the hurricane's gonna throw at your house. From breaking windows. All the plywood's gone. All the generators are gone because everybody knows the power's going to go out. Everything that you can think. You can't even escape it because the
scientists are sounding the alarm on a so-called solar superstorm that could eventually wipe out the internet for weeks or even months.
Coming solar storm could be so powerful that the internet across the world could face problems for weeks. NASA previously predicted that the next solar maximum would begin in late 2025. Unfortunately, a new study reveals that this solar maximum is coming sooner than expected, most likely in early 2024. A geomagnetic storm ensued, painting mesmerizing auroras across the skies, unleashed energy equivalent to 10 billion megatons of TNT from the sun. Scientists warn that if such an event were to happen today, it could lead to an internet apocalypse. Extreme voltages could wreak havoc on our electrical grids, potentially damaging undersea cables that power a significant chunk of the world's internet. Although Earth's magnetic field always protects us from these solar storms, but a violent solar storm can cause Earth's magnetic shield to fail. And the 1859 solar storm impact was astonishing. Scientists expect it to become one of the most powerful solar cycles. We've never experienced one of the extreme case events, and we don't know how our infrastructure would respond to it.
It's not, let's just say the power grid goes out, okay? Yeah. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
I know.
I just don't know when it's going to happen. Meaning, is it going to be in 2024 during election year? Because they're scared shitless that Trump could actually win. Is it going to be next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I believe it's going to happen. You best just do whatever you can to be ready for it. Some people are maybe saying, well, I don't have the kind of money. You guys got the money. And da-da-da-da. This isn't about money. There's ways of preparing in different ways based on the kind of resources you got. You have to figure out what level of resource. Like if we are a small country and we don't have the kind of money that China's got or other people have, we have to use our resources to create our own weapons. Even if we're a small little country, you have to think about it that way. You're a startup country. Protect your family. How do you do it? You have to do a little bit of research, a little bit of studying for yourself. And to find out if that were to happen, do you have a small generator? Do you have certain things set aside? What method of payment will you use if you don't have any cash, or if you don't have, what other things do you have to protect your family? I do believe it is something worth talking about with your family to be prepared for this, because I think something like this is going to happen next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And by the way, I do believe it's going to be worse than COVID, because at least with COVID, you can stay home and still communicate with others. With this, you stay home. Your internet, security, gate, lights, it's mayhem. Everything's gone, so what do? You just got to be prepared for it. And if it doesn't happen, better. You know, if it never happens, awesome. But at least you were prepared for worst case scenario.
A new report warns more than half of the U.S. could face dangerous blackouts and outages this winter. Regulators from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation say the nation's power grid is not up to the challenge of rapidly rising energy demands amid increasingly severe winter storms and extreme cold. The strain could cause the system to snap, setting parts of the country up for a repeat of last year's energy emergencies.
3 months. After 3 months, it will be apparent that rescue isn't coming. Governments won't restructure. After such a long natural disaster, any government that shows up in your city will not be there in a friendly helping capacity. It will be more feudalistic, community against community as they compete for natural resources and remaining resources. You're stuck where you are and may be subject to whatever jurisdiction rule holds the most power. You'll likely no longer be in a populous area. Either you left or they left. The death toll from a prolonged SHTF situation can only be estimated. But even in the low estimates, fully 1/3 of all the people will not survive in the first 90 days. Gone will be the elderly and anyone with a significant medical condition, those receiving medical treatment, or anyone in fragile health. Expect others to die from violence, starvation, dehydration, illness, travel, and exposure to the elements. The reality is that most people can't walk 10 miles, find food or water, or have the knowledge and skills to survive outside the fragile systems they rely upon. The world will look very post-apocalyptic, and either small communities will band together and rebuild by sharing labor, knowledge, and resources, or it will remain very fragmented. By now, you contribute something to the sustainment of your network community, and your community may have established trade or alliances with other communities. As much as it is common to think that as a prepper, you'll be able to go it alone, The reality is that you'll need a community to survive unless you're completely off-grid in the wilderness. For most preppers, that type of wilderness survival isn't a possibility. For most, survival will depend on the cooperation of others. Understand how it breaks down to understand how to survive. There will be no electricity, no water, no hospital, no government, dead telephones, and no internet in a prolonged grid-down situation. Know your location and assess your place before you find yourself in such dire straits. Ensure you have paper maps and know the areas of nuclear power plants and dams which may also fail. Knowledge is power, so having police scanners, radios, television, CB radio, ham radios, and some word of mouth will be critical. Any information you can obtain from these resources will be useful. Running water will stop. Pump stations will stop. Gravity-fed water, those big tanks on the hills you see, will continue to flow for a while, but they will run out since they are not being replenished. Fill the bathtub and every container you have, as water flow may stop. Water heaters typically hold around 40 gallons of water, so you may need to tap this resource to sustain yourself. You'll need the absolute minimum of at least 90 gallons of water per person to get you through the first 90 days. That includes all drinking, washing, and cooking. You simply cannot survive on less than that. If feasible, strategize and implement a rainwater collection system. From day one, start rationing your food and water. Don't be a healthy fat person after people have suffered for a month. You will be alerting people. The same is true for cooking food. Make sure the scent isn't carrying or you will attract others. You will need months of food. Most view this as caloric needs alone, but make sure you're looking at the nutritional qualities of the food. Understand that if you're hunkered down, you will not be burning a ton of calories. If you're on the move, you will be burning lots of calories, but will be unable to carry all the calories you need for a journey of a week or more. Ensure that you have 90 days of pet food on hand, and remember their water needs are different. They can drink rainwater without ill effect. Cash will only have an initial value. After the first couple of weeks, water, food, and durable goods will be of more importance. Bartering will hold more value in a prolonged or indefinite collapse. Supply chains will stop. The just-in-time delivery system with lean inventories will collapse relatively swiftly. Supply trucks will cease to deliver. Expect stores to be looted before the end of the first week. Take advantage of any supply handouts for appearance and necessities, but don't sacrifice your safety if they turn into chaotic mobs grabbing resources. Even if you don't need the food or water, you can trade for items you need like winter coats, blankets, or other critical items. Prepping for a national disaster that will last more than 90 days may seem extreme, but it should be your minimum goal. If you can survive the first 90 days after a collapse of that magnitude, you'll likely be able to survive the long haul and make it to the rebuilding phase. A return to the way things were before a collapse of that magnitude just isn't a possibility after 90 days. Survival is possible, but you'll inevitably have to rely upon your community and your networks. Apart from the items you've stored up, your significant assets will be your knowledge that you can bring to your community.
Here's another pack of low-grade morons who ought to be locked into portable toilets and set on fire. These people with bumper stickers that say, "We are the proud parents of an honor student at the Franklin School," you know? Or the Midvale Academy, or whatever other innocent-sounding name has been assigned to the indoctrination center where their child has been sent to be stripped of his individuality and turned into an obedient, soul-dead, conformist member of the American consumer culture.
On the surface, culture appears to be a diverse set of customs and rituals, which vary as widely as life itself. However, this vast array of diversification amongst small pockets of humanity has seen an increasing homogenization with the advent of technology, which allows us to travel across our planet and dissolve cultural boundaries faster than any other time in known human history. The idea of a world culture is, in and of itself, an innocuous concept. With that being said, those pockets of society which seek subjugation over humanity appear eager to achieve a global cultural homogenization due to the efficiency of just such a societal control mechanism. Undoubtedly, so much of who we are as human beings and how we perceive the world around us is due to the particular culture we inhabit at any given moment. And one of the most culturally defining aspects of any society is the education system. This becomes an undeniable reality when confronted with the fact that what we absurdly call the education system is in fact mandated by law through the state. French philosopher and writer Albert Camus once stated, "The welfare of humanity is always the alibi of tyrants." When addressing the question of why the state mandates through law what it calls an education, Camus' quote may provide the answer. Compulsory education is a phrase which refers to a period of education that is required of all people and is imposed by the government. This education may take place at a registered school or at other places. Compulsory school attendance, or compulsory schooling, means that parents are obliged to send their children to a certain school. Ancient Greek philosopher Plato's aforementioned book, The Republic, is credited with having popularized the concept of compulsory education in Western intellectual thought. Plato's rationale was straightforward. The ideal city would require ideal individuals, and ideal individuals would require an ideal education. Pictured here is a map using data collected by the World Bank, showing that nearly every country on our planet has enacted some form of compulsory education via the state. Education can be constructive or destructive, depending upon the knowledge gained, and more importantly, how that knowledge is utilized. However, as humanity coalesces into a one-world system of government, driven from the shadows by a malevolent criminal cabal, the idea of compulsory education appears increasingly frightening. A state-mandated education, as it is provided through the public school system, offers some of the following lessons, according to John Taylor Gatto, who was a New York State public school teacher for 30 years. Lesson 1. Confusion. I teach the unrelating of everything, an infinite fragmentation, the opposite of cohesion. What I do is more related to television programming than to making a scheme of order. Lesson 2. Class position. The lesson of numbered classes is that everyone has a proper place in the pyramid, and that there is no way out of your class except by number magic. Failing that, you must stay where you are put. Lesson 3. Indifference. Indeed, the lesson of bells is that no work is worth finishing, so why care too deeply about anything? Years of bells will condition all but the strongest to a world that can no longer offer important work to do. Lesson 4. Intellectual dependency. Good students wait for a teacher to tell them what to do. This is the most important lesson of them all. We must wait for other people, better trained than ourselves, to make the meanings of our lives. The expert makes all the important choices. Lesson 5. One can't hide. I teach students that they are always watched, that each is under constant surveillance by me and my colleagues. There are no private spaces for children. There is no private time. One of the most concerning aspects of John Taylor Gatto's observations regarding the public education system is that all of these lessons, which are being imparted to the students, appear to be ritually and systematically preparing the pupil to be consumed in the near future by an economic system which acts as the life force of the state. Former CEO of ExxonMobil and former Secretary of State for the U.S. government, Rex Tillerson, once stated, quote, "I'm not sure public schools understand that we're their customer, that we, the business community, are your customer. What they don't understand is that they are producing a product at the end of that high school graduation. Now, is that product in a form that we, the customer, can use it? Or is it defective and we're not interested?" Tillerson's remarks indeed appeared to provide the answer regarding exactly why the state would go to such great lengths to ensure a compulsory education for every person born within it. The ultimate goal, it seems, is to produce a society and culture that can eventually be cultivated and consumed by the state and its economic system. Writer Peter Schrag, in his book titled Mind Control, states the following: "Our schools are, in a sense, factories in which the raw products, children, are to be shaped and fashioned into products to meet the various demands of life. It is mind-bending to consider the vast resources in which humanity has allocated simply to ensnare, cultivate, and eventually consume their very own."
We found a 9-foot wide subterranean entrance under the west wall of Dog Room. There were 4 classrooms. That was Ray Bucky's room. By the way, Virginia McMartin and Ray Bucky were tried. Virginia, the grandmother, was acquitted. Ray had a hung jury. And we found these tunnels in the middle of the second trial of Ray Bucky. They could have been used to convict him. We called the prosecutor. He sent his investigator out, Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez told me, I don't want you entering in my conversation with the archaeologist. I said, why? He says, you're too argumentative. And I said, well, okay, you go in and talk. I'll just keep my mouth shut. We went in, he talked, and he argued with the archaeologist. Here's an investigator not qualified to talk about tunnels. He said there aren't any tunnels there, and the archaeologist, of course, argued. But anyway, they didn't use that evidence, strong evidence, in the second trial. They ignored it right in the middle of the second trial. I might mention this. The children identified professional football players, professional baseball players, household name actors, actresses, and the son of the leading politician, not a leading politician, the leading politician in Los Angeles as being perpetrators. Okay, we found an avocado tree root cut on both sides of the entrance, and I'll show you this in just a few minutes. The entrance to the tunnel, as I said, it was 9 feet across the top, and on one side was a live avocado root, on the other side was a dead avocado root. They had to cut that out. We have this, by the way. We found a plastic Disney bag, copyright 1982, about 4.5 feet below the classroom floor, and 3 to 6 inches in from the entrance and under the foundation. Now, the reason that plastic Disney bag is so important is because we think that they filled the tunnel in 1982 when the complaint was initially brought to the attention of the authorities. I said 83 earlier, it's 82 when the complaint was made. And when they filled it in, the plastic Disney bag somehow or other flew in there as they were filling it in and nobody noticed it. Now, who says there is no God, right? What documentation, fantastic documentation, that tunnel, the entrance to that tunnel, this is right at the entrance, was filled in 1982 or sometime subsequent to 1982. Mr. Ken Lanning, the outstanding know-it-all FBI expert, behavioral science, says that I took that garbage bag in 1993 out of a trash can and placed it there, that I planted evidence. Of course, Mr. Lanning says there's no organized satanic movement in this country today. There's only a few dabblers here and there. Thank you, sir. We have another 3 hours to go. Okay, can you hang in there? Okay, the tunnel proceeded south, then 45 feet through classroom 4 and 3 and north, then 10 feet within the classroom 4. The tunnels were 30 inches wide, 44 to 46 inches deep.
Now, why did we choose the theme or the motto, rebuilding trust? If we compare the world today with the world before we had the COVID pandemics, we find a completely different mood. First, the world has become very fearful, very fragmented, of course, and in such a situation, trust have vanished. We have lost trust to a certain extent in each another because we all have become under the pressure of the crisis, of the multiple crises. We have become more egoistic. So, and if you are more egoistic, you think first of yourself, and this distorts an atmosphere of trust. So if we want to recreate, and that's the objective of the annual meetings this year, we want to recreate a new spirit, a much more constructive spirit. Again, looking forward and having confidence in our future. And that's the reason why we have chosen this theme, rebuilding trust.
We need to eat less meat. We need to stop land being used for cattle and growing grain for the billions of animals that we keep in our intensive farms. And then finally, we cannot hide away from human population growth because, you know, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago.
I would like to make some betting with you. When we meet for the 20th, I hope I will have the pleasure still to be invited for the meeting. When we meet for the 20th Governance Summit, you will use the app like Uber, but not anymore to call some driver, but an automatically guided car, a self-driven car, will come to your hotel or wherever you are and will bring you to the airport. Actually, I had a discussion some months ago with the mayor of Los Angeles, and you know Los Angeles is one of the cities with the heaviest traffic, who told me in 2030 Los Angeles will be private car-driven free. And this will allow to transform highways into parks and other public spheres.
As human beings, our very survival is dependent upon consuming, and as physical entities in this shared three-dimensional reality, we are bound to this fundamental law of a material existence. From the basic necessities of food and water to the less requisite and newest smartphone, humanity appears to be in an inexorable state of consumption. Humanity's blind, incessant impulse, wherein human beings will even consume each other in metaphysical acts of cannibalism, unfolds on many levels of our reality. Embedded within the collective mythos of our species, this appears to speak to a deep and fundamental truth regarding our nature as human beings. From the matrix of mind control to the mysteries of alchemy, we'll seek to explore a realm all too familiar, yet deeply occult. Upon birth into the mystical matrix we call reality, one of the first acts of consumption we partake in as human beings is culture. What we eat, what we wear, what we read, what we listen to, how we speak, and how we wish to be perceived are all influenced, to some degree, by the culture we inhabit at any given moment. It has long been understood by those who seek to control humanity that the culture of a particular region makes the best possible snare when attempting to wrap society in a web of control. It is believed that the modern term culture is based on a term used by the ancient Roman orator Cicero in his Tusculan Disputations, where he wrote of a cultivation of the soul using an agricultural metaphor for the development of a philosophical soul, understood teleologically as the highest possible ideal for human development. It is indeed interesting that the root of the word culture lies in the agricultural act of cultivation, which implies that human beings are developed through culture, much like a crop. Generally speaking, crops are cultivated in hopes that they may, at some point, be consumed. Before Cicero, the concept of culture control was discussed in ancient Greek philosopher Plato's book, titled The Republic. In his book, Plato links the development of the human soul to culturally relevant concepts of his own time, namely art and poetry. Though Plato's intentions appeared to be for the betterment of humanity, this theory on the development of culture and society in general appears to have also laid the groundwork for future generations of vacuous despots seeking a more malevolent control over humanity than the philosopher kings of Plato's ideal civilization. Plato writes, "Is it, then, only the poets that we must supervise and compel to embody in their poems the image of the good character, on pain of not writing poetry among us? Or must we keep watch over the other craftsmen too, and prevent them from embodying the bad character just mentioned, licentious, mean, and graceless, either in images of living things, or in buildings, or in any other product of their craft, on penalty, if they are unable to obey, of being forbidden to practice among us?" From this quote, we can see that human beings have long since understood that control over material culture is paramount when developing a society. How material culture is shaped and molded can determine the level of difficulty in controlling a population.
Humans have, they have this soul or spirit, and they have free will, and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized, everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
the
to
vaccine
of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, more manageable. Surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
Get your new world order off your ass. You can stick your new world order up your ass. You can stick your new world order when the sun don't shine with order. Stick your new world order up your ass. Stick it, we are the 99%. Stick it, we are the 99%. Stick it, we are the 90%. Together we are mighty.
I saw white people wearing shirts that said Black Lives Matter, like they were doing me such a favor by having a t-shirt that reminded me that my life mattered, like I didn't already know that. So I thought I'd return the favor and let white people know that, hey, your life matters too.
The great and violent power of nuclear explosions can be used for peaceful purposes. We call this project Plowshare. The reason for the name is obvious. For quite a few years in the Livermore laboratory, we have tried to find ways to bend this power to useful purposes. Geographical engineering, move great amounts of earth, build canals, harbors, use nuclear explosives, like high explosives have been used, for the purpose of mining. Use nuclear explosives in the bowels of the earth, using the earth itself as the crucible, to make new kinds of chemistry. These are just some possibilities. Here I have with me a piece of salt from a mine in New Mexico. There, in the Nome site, we have performed an explosion to find out the behavior of nuclear explosives in this new medium, salt. And we performed that explosion for peaceful purposes alone. We try to find out whether we can deposit great amounts of energy in the soil and then extract it later for useful purposes. We built up a physics laboratory right down there in the salt mine to find out more about the neutrons which make nuclear explosives and nuclear reactors tick. We tried to do the best to develop further this great tool, nuclear energy, for peaceful purposes. But at the very outset, we were convinced of one thing. The most interesting thing that we might find out may be something which no one expects, a surprise.
March 1958.
Codeine crazy. Yeah, pouring bubbly, pouring bubbly, pour that bubbly, pour that bubbly, pour that bubbly. We done went through too much, you hear me? Hold that bubbly. Drink that muddy, bro, we covered it. Yeah, I'm covered in. I was dugging it, I was just loving it. That's for the muffin lip, that's for the other bitch. That ain't for you, dog, that's for the other niggas. That ain't for you, shot, that's for that other bitch. I'm going crazy about it.
What the f is that, dude? What? That's it. Explosion. Explosion. What the f is that, dude? What? What the f is that, dude?
Because, dog, the way that these YouTubers describe their job, you'd think that they're fucking coal miners working 14-hour shifts, just down in the mines with no lights on, just mining away. When in reality, all that they have to do is they just have to wake up at 2 fucking p.m. and then film a video for 30 minutes and then send that shit to their editor and then get paid 5 times the average person's salary. Like, I see all these YouTubers constantly complaining about being famous and how they hate being recognized in public and they just wish they could just be treated like a normal person. Guess what, motherfucker? You want to be a popular YouTuber? You need to become famous. That's what happens when you become a famous YouTuber, you stupid bitch. Like, did you expect this shit to be all sunshine and rainbows for you? Like, that's so fucking dumb. That's like being a doctor and then being surprised when you have to perform a surgery. And these guys are the laziest people I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. They really cannot just muster the strength to get up out of bed at 3 p.m. in the fucking morning and film their little 30-minute Let's Play video because that's oh so hard for their mental health. Oh no, poor you. Do you want a fucking cookie? Like, I would literally have a chainsaw rammed up my fucking ass to get paid the amount of money that you get for just having your goofy ass stand in front of a fucking video game for 30 minutes. And you guys are complaining about your mental health because it's so hard filming these videos once a month. Fuck out of here. Like, I genuinely don't understand how so many of these people can adore and love these selfish ass YouTubers when it's clearly obvious they don't give a fuck about their fans, they don't give a fuck about their community, they only care about themselves. And it's so obvious that they're insufferable as hell. Like Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio saying that they hate all the attention and fame that they've been getting and that they wish to marry someone rich and young is so fucking insulting to me because I know damn well that both of these motherfuckers could literally buy my entire family tree and use us as factory workers for their new merch. Like, I just want to see both of these motherfuckers work at a Waffle House for 2 years straight and then come back and try and say the exact same shit about how hard it is to be a content creator. Same thing for Corey too. For some reason, this motherfucker is allergic to posting videos to his fans. Like, this guy is always making some fucking excuse to not post. Like, my guy, you need to hurry this shit up. Like, at this point, I'm convinced that these YouTubers are more invested in touching little kids than posting fucking videos. Like, my guy, maybe stop molesting that little kid over there and start focusing your energy on posting some content.
I hate most people. I can't keep doing this on my own. With these people.